Welcome back to the Convo Couch. Everybody, Pasta Jardula here.
And I'm Fiorella. What's up, guys?
And Johnny Sue is still spinning on those ones and twos. Welcome everybody to the show, and I want to send a special thank you to all the followers over on ROKFIN, ROKFIN. We are almost near 7,000, so if you haven't signed up for the ROKFIN YouTubers, get on over there and help us out. And also a special thank you to our Patreons. We have 120 of you. That keeps growing.
Yeah.
And it is awesome, as we are also looking at 31,000 subscribers on YouTube. But we know how they like to suppress. Can't talk about WikiLeaks. Can't talk about the truth. You can't expose the government. But today, we have a special guest who's been with us plenty of times. And she likes to put the government, especially the state of California, under a magnifying glass, especially when it comes to evictions and renters and people with mortgages. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome one of my favorite guests. She always gets to the bottom of everything when it comes to our renters and protects them. Elena Popp is with us. How you doing, Elena?
Exploding head, thank you very much. That's the only thing I can say right now. It has been a roller coaster, and I do not need a magnifying glass to call the governor to task right now, because the flaws in his proposals are so obvious that you can see them with the naked eye.
You mean Gavin Newsom is not doing the right thing to be the next president in 2024?
Absolutely. Well, I don't know. We have an idiot for a president. Maybe he is following in the right tracks, but he's not doing the right thing to protect his constituents. He's not doing the right thing to protect not just tenants, but the public from the escalating rate of contagion.
Yeah. Okay. So it's September 1st. Some people haven't paid rent in months due to COVID. A lot of the states have been shut down. Some people who work in the hospitality industry, like myself, have been shut out and can do nothing but stay at home to do what they said to do, help stop the spread of the virus. But to do so, we needed solutions to get out of this. And you stated that the new bill, AB 3088, the governor's negotiated deal, is not a moratorium on evictions. In fact, you said get a dictionary. So which body of government in California negotiated and settled on this bill on AB 3088 with Gavin Newsom?
At the table was the governor's office, the leadership of the Senate, the leadership of the Assembly, including one of my, usually good guy Assembly members, Chu, who had been pushing AB 1436, which was a much better bill. And then also the California Apartments Association and some representatives from tenants' rights groups were in the negotiations around this bill. But, we did not sign on up for this. The California Apartment Association did. So you can just from that know that this is not a bill that is good for tenants.
And you stated that AB 3088 is a low-grade antibiotic bill that is out of date. It's not going to hurt, but it's not going to help either, except for people who have lawyers. So how does AB 3088 help protect us, and how does it hurt us?
Okay, so actually I've modified that statement having read it again. First of all, it's highly confusing. There were a bunch of lawyers on a call just before this, and we can't agree on what it does and how to use it. So to start with, if lawyers cannot understand it, how are lay people going to understand it? Number one. For many tenants, it's a low-grade antibiotic, out of date, not going to hurt. But now that we've looked at it more carefully, it will take away some important protections that our local ordinance had gotten us, which frankly I've been criticizing as well, right? But at least it was stronger than 3088, and we're losing some of those protections. So for instance, our local ordinance in Los Angeles City and County, so that would have covered the city of Los Angeles, all of the unincorporated areas of Los Angeles, any city that doesn't have its own protection, and any mobile home or commercial tenant in a city that doesn't protect them, so that's a lot of tenants, would have had 12 months to pay back the debt from the date of the end of their local emergency. So that could have been many, many years, which would be a great benefit to people. Under Governor Newsom's proposal, that debt has to start being paid by March 2021 at the latest, and be done being paid by March 2022 at the latest. So our law gets preempted and weakened. So it actually is non-FDA approved antibiotic that could further kill us in some jurisdictions. The real issue is, what do we really need here? Should I answer that question, or is that coming?
I mean, yeah. I mean, what do we really need here? I mean, my next question was, when does it go in effect, and what should a person do if they haven't paid rent in 5 months? But before we get into that, tell us what we really need, and then tie it into what we need to do now if this bill takes place.
Okay, so it goes into effect today's the 1st. So
it doesn't have to go through legislation?
It went through legislation over the weekend in a mad rush, in which I saw some of the hearings, all this, patting each other on the back and talking about how they'd spent so much time talking about this when the thing was just proposed last week. So no, it went through both houses over the weekend and passed just in the nick of time under the deadline. So it's in effect now. Let's talk about what it doesn't do. Okay. Let's assume you're not a housing advocate. Let's assume you don't think housing is a human right, right? But you're a health advocate. You want to make sure that we flatten this curve. Can you explain to me how it's not safe to send our kids to school, and it's not safe for my honey bunny and I to go have a nice romantic dinner in a closed indoor restaurant, but it is somehow safe, according to our governor and our legislature, to allow people to be evicted, which will either put them on the street or force them to double or triple up with somebody else? Both of those actions is going to affect infection rates. Homeless people have a higher rate of infection because what are they not doing? They're not sheltering in place, which is what the governor said we needed to do. How can you shelter in place if you have no place in which to shelter? And so someone's homeless, they get exposed, they get sick, they expose somebody else. Somebody is displaced, they have family. So your family of 4 joins your sister's family of 4, where there were 4 and 4, there are now 8. You just doubled the chances that somebody is going to pick something up, bring it home, and then instead of infecting 4, is going to infect 8. You can't flatten the curve that way. This is not about housing rights. This is about health concerns. And the governor needs to wrap his brain around that and give us an actual full-on moratorium. No one should be displaced for any reason until at least 90 days after the state of emergency ends. At this juncture, I'm not talking about canceling the rent. I'm not talking about what's fair to landlords. I'm not talking about what's fair to tenants. I'm simply talking about the health impacts of having the population be unstable and out and about rather than sheltering in place. That's simple.
Okay, so what do we do if we haven't paid rent now? Now that we're stuck with this situation, as unjust as it is, how do we act if we haven't paid rent for 5 months? And we might not have a job to go back to, because right now I know my job is not like saying come back and whatnot. And what do we do now? I mean, what's going to protect us? I mean, rule number 1, what was rule number 1? Was it reiterated? Was that something to be like 90 days after the state of emergency was lifted, right? And basically, I'm just so scared. My friends are calling me like, have you talked to Elena Popp? Have you talked to Elena Popp? What do I do now? What do I do now? And I'm like, don't worry. She's going to be on the show. She'll tell us what to do. Elena, what do we do now?
Okay. So I don't have a magic pill for you because the governor gave us outdated penicillin that's not FDA approved. Rule 1 worked because it literally stopped evictions, not because it prohibited evictions, but because once they were filed, they couldn't move forward. And most landlords used the 2 brain cells God gave them and didn't file them at all because it was a waste of money, time, and energy. And so they did not file eviction actions at all as a result. Okay. or I should say, they file 350 a month average, but that's an 89% reduction from our pre-COVID numbers. And so it was just a minor miracle for us. What can happen now? If you have not paid rent for any of the months, March, April, May, June, July, or August, in order for your landlord to proceed, your landlord has to give you a 15-day notice under 3088 instead of a 3-day notice. And that 15-day notice has to have attached to it a sample declaration about your inability to pay rent, and you fill it out and you send it back to your landlord within 15 days. And if you do that, it takes the case out of eviction court. You still owe the debt. The landlord can still sue you next year, but it takes the case out of eviction court. And that is a benefit to the tenant that is listening to me. It's a benefit to the tenant that can manage to follow those instructions, because it does take the case out of eviction court, and that is a good thing. Then the landlord has an opportunity to sue you. I think March 1st, 2021 is the first date that they can sue you. And then you get to go to small claims court. The small claims court filing levels are going to be increased, where you may or may not be able to articulate your other defenses to your failure to pay rent. So if you're in a rent control jurisdiction, you should be able to raise rent control defenses, but will you be able, without a lawyer, to do that on your own? Our experience tells us that 99% of tenants that try to do this on their own fail. So then you're likely to lose that case and end up with a judgment for the debt. You do, however, have the right to appeal that case, and now you have a right to a lawyer. So that's what's going to happen to the people who did not pay the rent between March and August. For people that don't have their September rent, you should send a letter to your landlord the way you have every single month, as I've instructed, saying, I don't have the rent due to a COVID-19 related reason. You don't have to state the reason, and do not state that someone in your household or you have COVID. You don't have to disclose that. You just have a COVID-19 related reason. And then it's up to the landlord to send you that notice, 15-day notice to pay the rent or quit, with a declaration. And you have to send back that declaration. The difference is that in order to take advantage of that protection of having your case be taken out of eviction court, you still owe the money, you can still be sued, your wages can still be garnished, but at least you're out of eviction court. In order to do that, you have to pay 15% of the rent for the months of September, October, 25% of the rent for the months of September, October, November, December, and January, no later than January 31st, in order to have those protections. So it does that help? Does that help? I think it helps some people. Does it hurt? It hurts people who had stronger protections in LA City and LA County. If we ultimately determine that the state law nixes, legal term preempts, non-legal term nixes the local laws. And we still are not quite sure. There is some preemption language in 3088 that we think takes away that 12-month period from the end of the state of emergency.
Wow. Fam, you got anything? Because I'm like, well, does the 25% have to be paid each month? Or you say we can drag that out for several times. It has to be paid within the 15 days. As long as we pay the 25%, we can continue this process, buy ourselves some more time, right? Okay.
You have to send the declaration within the 15 days, but you don't have to pay the 25% until the 31st of January. Before the 1st of February.
And this is what it is now.
That's the governor's a negotiated proposal
Okay.
that he negotiated with the Apartment Owners Association
Uh-huh.
and basically ignored what the tenant rights advocates were asking for.
Right. So what there, you said there's a protest, but what other pushback is there from the tenants? Because this definitely makes it worse for people who thought they weren't going to have to pay anything till the end of the year.
Yeah. So we do have a Twitter constant social media message. I'll put it in the chat in case you guys want to put it out. So I'll put it in the chat when we are off air so that I don't look like I'm being a weirdo. Actually I found it so I can look like I'm being a weirdo for a little bit of time. So this is the social media message that we are putting out there. It is not complicated. It is a message to the leadership of the Assembly and Senate and to Governor Newsom, California Governor, Rendon 63rd, Tony Atkins, AB 3088 is not enough. The only policy ensuring renters are not evicted during the pandemic ends September 1st. Unless you prohibit all evictions, you are guilty of abdicating your responsibility to keep us safe. And then there's a link to the LA Times opinion editorial and hashtag no evictions, hashtag Newsomville. You ask what you should do. You know, the governor has a great front lawn. You might consider moving there, right?
At least for the day, right?
I mean, I think this is like, instead of helping tenants, this is like literally going to put people in the street, as you say. And so what if you don't pay the 25% starting now, what do they have the capacity to do unless they fix this law or give a better solution?
Put you into eviction court.
Right.
So when you think about the problem with getting people into eviction court is we have in LA County alone 491,000 families who have households who have not paid the rent. And just imagine what that does. We were able to represent 5,000 households in 2019. 491,000. I can't even fathom what that looks like. And 99% of people that go to court alone lose their cases.
Right.
So unless the governor is also going to give us millions of dollars for lawyers and license a whole bunch of law graduates, because we don't have lawyers to even hire, most people will not be able to take advantage of this law.
Right.
And in fact, the lucky few who hear reports like this are the only ones who will be able to take advantage of what protections are available to them.
But that's only if they pay the 25%. If they don't pay the 25%, then
Eviction.
They can take you to court. And
But we have till January 31st to pay the 25%, right? So it would just be, so we can just send the letters, send we send the reason why, they send it back. We do the same thing every month, but come January 31st, the 25% of the rent from September, October, November, December,
and January,
5 months are all due right there.
Correct.
And then if they don't pay it by then, we can start the eviction process. So in other words, as long as we do the paperwork properly, that's going to still buy us a little time to maybe see if something comes about.
That is a good way to look at it. So we need to get a lot of outreach and education done to make sure people know what they have to do in order to take advantage of 3088, while at the same time we are pushing for a full-on moratorium, not from a housing perspective, but from a health perspective. I don't care what that person did to deserve, in big quotes, being evicted. I don't care if that tenant is a good guy or a bad guy. I just know that tenant is a threat to my health and your health and your health if they're evicted, become sick, get someone else sick, and then we never get out of this because our governor thought not safe to send kids to school, not safe to eat in a restaurant, but somehow safe to have a whole bunch of people on the street and in shelters and doubling up. It makes no sense. The governor, I watched his last press conference because I was waiting to see what he was going to say about 3088. And it's like this complicated, color coded by county and based on contagion. And LA is purple, meaning we ain't doing so good. If we ain't doing so good, how come our homeless, our tenants can be evicted, which will make us do worse?
Right.
Governor, please listen to that.
I mean, he's closing salons, gyms, all of these things, and yet we're going to allow people to be evicted. It just seems counterintuitive. If you really care about scaling back COVID infections, why are you doing the one thing that would literally like create a disaster? Not to mention the fact that there are tents everywhere now. You can't escape them at anywhere in LA. So what is the fallback plan from the state legislature when there's a huge number of evictions and people are left out in the street? Because like not everybody's going to know about this. Not everybody's going to do the right things they need to do, but they should still be protected. What is the plan for activists like yourself and for us that a lot of people that haven't been paying rent and are finding themselves in this quagmire?
Well, there's very few things I would risk my life for, but getting a moratorium on evictions is one of them. And I was out there last week. I think most of you know I'm 61. I have a heart condition and a respiratory tract that is leaves something to be desired. But I was out there on the 21st, and I am going to be out there tomorrow. We're shutting the courts down. And it's not something a lawyer does lightly. Okay. It is a protest that comes from really believing that this system needs to be shut down until it recognizes that evicting people is wrong. So starting at 7 a.m., we are at the 111 North Hill, 110 North Grand, and there's 4 entrances. We will be there. Press conference at 7. There's a car caravan planned. So you can join in the car caravan. If you don't feel safe, please come masked and shielded, because I keep hearing that these protests are going to be socially distanced. Social distance is 6 feet. You cannot do a blockade and stay 6 feet away from people, but you can come masked and shielded and gloved. And that keeps you from touching your face. And what I did 2 weeks ago is I walked straight into my house, walked straight into the shower, and threw all of my clothes straight into the washer and dryer. There are ways to make it as safe as possible and still be out there. So encouraging people to come and send a clear message to the governor that we are not going, if he can't stop evictions, we will stop evictions.
Yeah. I mean, if the courts open, when the courts open, shouldn't there be a plan to have protests to people to block the courts like we've seen in places like Louisiana?
Louisiana, yeah.
We did our dry run last week, and we blocked. Entre nous, we blocked 3 entrances and directed everyone to the 3rd entrance. At the 3rd entrance, we actually had every intention of educating people. People were telling stories, and then discouraging anyone who was there to file an eviction action from going in, but allowing others to go in. The sheriff blocked that door for us. So all 4 entrances were blocked because the sheriff locked the 4th door. Our intention had been, we were directing everyone to that entrance so that people with other business could go in, and we could educate those that were there to evict people, and then see what happens if the education didn't go well. But the sheriff blocked that 4th entrance, and we kept the courts closed for a half a day. And frankly, the reason we decided to leave was because we wanted the sheriff to open that 4th door, because there were people that were missing hearings that had custody cases, and we didn't want to interfere with that. But that was a dry run, right? That was before they could file, that was before we lost Rule 1. So we are doing what they did in Louisiana tomorrow, and then we'll see what we do the day after tomorrow. But the governor needs to get a clear message that we need a full-on moratorium, that he absolutely needs to use common sense. If you don't open restaurants, nail salons, and schools, you can't evict people either. Use the same measure. We keep saying that we want this moratorium until 90 days after the state of emergency ends, which is what the Judicial Council rule originally was, but they got sued. They got sued. That's why they took it away. They got sued because they got sued for legislating as opposed to managing the courts. It is the governor's job and the legislature's job to legislate. And so they took the rule away because they got sued. The governor needs to replace that rule. And between you, me, and your 20,000 viewers, if the governor would just apply the same standards to what that he's applying to schools, restaurants, nail salons, and other businesses, and give us a 2-month moratorium, a full moratorium till the end of November. And then a couple of days before October 1st, assess, what do the numbers look like? Oh no, they don't look good. Let's do it another month, so that we're every month deciding what's happening for the next month. I would be satisfied with that strategy. What I don't understand is his inability to see that it's a health issue. It's not even a housing issue. We can't get him off of we have to balance between landlords and tenants. No, it's not a balance between landlords and tenants. It's not. It's about keeping people safe from infection. Whenever I see someone walking around without a mask, I will tell them, you need to be wearing a mask. Oh, I don't need it. I feel good. It's not about you, honey. It's about me. I don't want you to get infected, infect someone else, and then infect me. Well, Governor, this is not about landlords and tenants. This is about infection and infection rates and how we will never go back to normal unless you keep people in place.
Yeah. Before, when I talked to a lot of lawyer friends of mine too as well, we were thinking about leaving like 90 days and after the COVID had started, 3 months not paying rent. We had a month of security in the bank, so I figured by worst comes to worst, we'll owe maybe 2 months back rent, and I don't know if they would even come out after us forget it. But a lot of my lawyer friends were like saying, no, don't leave, because once you give up possession, then you will give up a lot of power you have. Would you suggest the same type of kind of strategy right now that it's been 5 months and we haven't paid rent, to say, hey, let me give my 30 days, cut tail and run? Because I don't want this credit to build up and have them come after me for all this money.
Where are you going?
With mom. I don't know.
So here's the thing. I mean, I suppose if you want to go live with mom, that's one thing. But you have to have a place to be, and you have to have a place to be for a prolonged period of time. One of the newer things that we're seeing is landlords asking, the highest I've seen is 6 times the rent and income. Who's got 6 times rent and income? And very common, 3 times the rent and income, and that's not illegal. And so with the prices that let's say to afford an apartment, say $2,000 a month, you have to have $6,000 a month in income. Most people don't have that. And so if you are thinking of giving up your place, you need to make sure that you have a place where you can stay for a year or 2 or well after this crisis. Because, my mama used to say, I think there's a saying in English too, guests and fish start to smell after a week, right? So, someone might welcome you into their home, but very quickly you will be a burden on them, and will you be allowed to stay?
But right? Do we give up our power? Do we give up bargaining power by leaving now? Or do we maintain some power if we stay still, to maybe reach some collective bargaining down the road?
So the main reason I'm recommending people not move is the health concern around people doubling and tripling up, right? If you go move in with mom, now instead of you have an extra person that's a potential source of infection. But it is actually also true that the bargaining position around getting landlords to forgive the rent is usually tied to giving up possession in the future. So if you're going to move, we need to negotiate away the rent before you move out, not after. After you move out, they'll just go after you in small claims court. and you'll lose that leverage.
So, at this point, what should people do as far as calling our elected officials? And exactly what should we say? Because it seems like it's a pretty dire situation right now to pressure Newsom and other officials to really fix this. Because people are really going to be evicted, are going to go in the streets. And yes, COVID is a huge issue, but also the economics of it. I mean, the pandemic has caused people to not have a job, their businesses to go under. And so now we're at the last strand, which is eviction. How should we call our elected officials? What should we say?
So if your bandwidth is limited, your focus should be on the governor. So he's on Twitter, and I hear he pays attention to it. His handle is at California Governor. In the Senate, it's Tony Atkins, and in the Assembly, it's Rendon. And
of course it is.
And if you have the capacity, to put their handles, oops, that Rendon one needs an at. Sorry, I've put them in the chat. This is a sample of a tweet that you could do or something to put on social media. The message is that we need a full moratorium on evictions. The only policy ensuring that renters are not evicted ends, and if you're doing this tomorrow, ended September 1st. We have to prohibit all evictions. Otherwise, they are guilty of abdicating their responsibility. If folks want to be kept up to date, the organization that does this is aceaction.org. You sign up to be part of aceaction.org, and you're going to get regular action alerts as things change. But right now, pressure on the governor, because the governor is really the only person that can do something right now. The Assembly and the Senate, the legislature are out of session. The governor could do a sweeping order that says no evictions can be filed until November 31st or November 30th, whatever the last day of November is. And then in October, he can say extending it a month if the numbers haven't gotten better. And then he can extend it another month if the numbers haven't gotten better. And if we could get him to do that, it would allow people to breathe. Mm-hmm. And for folks that are thinking of moving out, we can try to negotiate, but you really have to think it through. You will not get back into housing for several years because landlords are asking for a lot in order to house people. So if you cannot produce at least 3 times your income in rent, you are not likely to get another place to live for a long time. So you really have to know that you have a safe place to go.
So question, isn't that, you said that's legal, but what about the fact that the economic aspect of it too? There is obviously a housing crash coming then, because people aren't going to be able to pay 6 times their rent or 3 times their rent. So
we're already seeing that in other cities that are ahead of us in the pandemic. So vacancy rates in New York are pretty high. So I suppose you could bank on that and be a little speculative and give up this apartment after we negotiate away the debt, and then bank on the fact that the vacancy, a lot of people are moving in with mom, and so vacancy rates then go up, and then prices will have to fall. Exactly. So landlords aren't really thinking this through either.
Right.
But do you really want to take that chance in this market? Now, that is happening also in San Francisco. The main reason it's happening in San Francisco is because the whole .com industry can be done from home. And so .comers were working from home, so they fled the city to places where they could pay more reasonable rents. So that is something to consider. It probably, if you're young and flexible and can live with mom, but I'm urging people who have families, especially if you are currently in a rent stabilized unit that is below market, you might want to hold off or at least find that perfect place first before you give it up. So steps are look, find the perfect place, negotiate away your COVID-19 related debt, then you move, then you give notice.
Okay, so you're saying go to the governor and take tell him to take executive action, ban all evictions till December 1st, pretty much, or November 30th, whichever one it is. That's the action we have to take. He can do that by executive order, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And I'd like to just address some of the people in the chat right now, just to get people under control right now. For the people who are saying, "Oh, I don't believe in the COVID," or "This is bullshit," and everything like that, it doesn't make a difference if the COVID is real or not. The governor has shut down the states as far as economics. He's taken the ability, whether we believe in the COVID or not, to go to work. So people don't have jobs and people don't have money, and that was what Elena is talking about. So all to you people in the chat right now who are really driving me crazy, saying that, oh, she's talking about the COVID when they're exacerbating it, whatnot. It doesn't make a difference. The state we live here has been shut down, and they have taken away, whether the COVID is real or not, the ability to make money. So that is what she is saying. So people, please, in the chat, you know who you are. Just calm down and look at the situation for what it is. Does the governor, and it doesn't surprise me, by the way, Elena, that Rendon, who shelved Medicare for all in the state of California, is also acting in this way. Does the governor have any ties to real estate that you know of, that's maybe why he's making this move?
All of our elected officials have ties to real estate in the sense that they are minimally afraid of the California Apartment Association. The California Apartment Association is a very powerful lobby. Why? They have tons of money. So if they want to vote you out of office, they can make it happen. And therefore, the bulk of the legislature and the governor are the pockets of the California Apartment Association. We have votes, but we don't have money. If tenants would mobilize together, those are my pups. Somebody must be.
They don't like that California thing over there. They hate that department over there.
So if people, what we really need to do is show the governor and the legislature that tenants are a more powerful voting force than the money they can get from the California Apartment Association, the real estate industry, the banking industry, the insurance industry. So join ACE Action. ACE is one of the most powerful tenants' rights organizations in the state. There are others, but let's keep it simple. ACE, Alliance of Californians for Community Empowerment. You join, and then when they send an action alert for you to send an email to the governor or call the governor, do it. Why? Because that's how the governor will know that we have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of tenants ready to vote him out of office if he doesn't give us what we're asking for. We need to make the governor and the legislature more afraid of tenants than they are of the California Apartment Association.
Exactly. People should be out in the streets tomorrow. Everybody. Like, everybody should be out in the streets right now. It's September 1st. There's so many things that in a pandemic that we're lacking. I mean, we're lacking healthcare, we're lacking housing, we're lacking anything from these politicians. They went on a break. Like, I mean, this is insane, because added to the fact that the $600 that the federal government was giving is not happening, and Donald Trump suggested $400, but we don't even know what's going on with that, because some states have it, some states don't. Has there been any other movement or talk on a federal level, regarding a federal bill, such as what Ilhan Omar suggested?
That bill's not moving forward, but something right before I came on air, I was on a call where we started to discuss a new federal something, unclear who it applies to, unclear what its preemption status is. So folks should watch out for that as well. For people that want to stay informed, on Facebook, we have the COVID-19 Tenants Rights group. It's a Facebook group where we post stuff fairly regularly. I need to be a little bit more regular about the posting. But we also, and I don't know whether people can see these in the chat, but we have regular webinars 3 times a week. And this is where you can come visit us and ask your questions and get informed. 3 times a week we make presentations. The Tuesday is Spanish dominant, translated to English, and the Thursday and Saturday are English dominant, translated to Spanish. My language justice people would say that we're not supposed to do that. We're supposed to be equal at all times. But for whatever reason, and probably because I keep repeating that, there's more Spanish speakers on Tuesday than there are on Thursday and Saturday. And the other thing that I would recommend is stayhousedla.org. This is I'm going to say this because I think we're amongst friends. I've been doing this for 35 years, and for 35 years, allies have kind of competed with each other for funding. And, for the first time in my career, all of the legal services programs that help low-income people are in one coalition, 12 programs, plus 12 organizations that do organizing, Right to Counsel Coalition. And we have come together with a outreach and education program that launched a couple of weeks ago. The website just went live at 5:00 this morning. I got an email and a text saying, Elena, did it work? I just managed to do an automatic referral to your agency. And so if you are having an actual legal problem, you've got a notice, you've got a landlord threatening you, you got a notice from the court. The moment you get it, stayhousedla.org, you fill out a short questionnaire that will assign you a community-based organization that will help you identify other, rental assistance and plug you into the movement, and a legal services program that will deal with your legal issue. Stayhousedla.org. It's county funded. And it's actually this amazing, miraculous, coordinated effort to make sure we keep people housed. Okay. So don't panic. Don't sign anything. Don't move. Give us a chance to help you either save your housing, or if you really are ready to move out, make sure you have a place to go. Make sure it's a place you can stay for a couple of years. And then we will help you negotiate your way out of your current situation.
So if we would have pulled the chain and move out right now, they can file with the courts for what we owe right away? Or is that going to go to civil court? And how can we keep it off our credit history? Or how could we, get some time to pay it back? In other words, if I leave now and I owe 6 months, like say if I move at the end of can that be filed in small claims court right away?
I would say that under AB 3088, if you've done all your noticing to the landlord, etc., they'd have to wait till March 1st to file that lawsuit. But I think I can do you one better, and let's call your landlord and let them know that you are willing to move. But let's not, I'm sure you're not talking about you're talking about generic use. And so generic use, please give me, go on stayhousedla.org. Generic use in Pasadena are likely to be assigned to my agency. My agency will be covering the Pasadena and West Covina court, so it's the whole northeast part of the valley, and the whole northeast part of the county, plus sharing the downtown court with a whole bunch of other agencies. So stayhousedla.org.
So I just wanted to address something, because somebody in the chat was like, states that shut down the government can't demand anything from the federal government now. Okay, we can't punish people for what the governor has done, right? Like people had zero say in what Gavin Newsom did, but aside from that, we haven't gotten any help. Like, we have gotten the bare minimum of crumbs, a $1,200 payment, $600 plus the unemployment in most states, which is like caps at $300 in most states. In California, I think it's like 4 something. But I mean, it's not. This isn't a question of only it is COVID. I mean, obviously, it's hypocritical to close everything down and then evict people, and it's a health hazard. But also, I don't know what people expect when half of the businesses are shut down. And all these like tourist industries, all these hospitality industry, retail industry, half of them aren't coming back in the city. I'm just baffled that the governor, who has been praised by a lot of people on the left, is really like, it's just, he's not doing anything, and he has the power to do it, and on his own, regardless of the federal government. So I just think people need to really be out there protesting, because honestly, I don't think they're going to do anything unless they hear that call. So
the governor needs to understand he does not get reelected.
Yeah.
If he does not take care of this problem in a way that makes sense. And what makes sense right now is to put evictions on the same standard and color scale as schools, beauty salons, restaurants.
Yeah. You know what we need, John, to combat Governor Newsom, John?
What's that?
We need a champion of the people to run against him.
Yeah.
We need somebody to take on Gavin Newsom who's not going to be afraid of these lobbyists. We're looking for a real champion.
Hey, Elena, I got a question, actually. So let's say, we haven't paid rent since COVID started, right? And do we need to pay the 25% on all those months right now, or
no?
It would be a separate issue.
It's a separate issue. So on the past months, there's no requirement to pay the 25%, but you still owe them in the future. Your landlord can sue you for them if you haven't paid it by March 1st, 2021. Although if you're in a city that has a 12-month repayment period, then, and this is one of the preemption issues that we're confused about, in one place it says you have to start paying March of 2021, and in another place it says that for jurisdictions with their own repayment period, it can't go past March of 2022. All the debt has to be paid by that date. So presumably that means you can start paying them March of 2021 and get it paid in a year. But it's one of those questions, right? And we are smart lawyers that were reading this law, and there were as many opinions about what is said as there were lawyers on the Zoom call. And so we all decided to go back, read it again, and we're meeting again tomorrow. It's crazy. It is crazy when there's that much disagreement about what a law says.
Yeah, from lawyers, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, that's it. Guys, you guys have anything else? Because I mean, the advice I'm taking to is just stay put, get all the information, send all the letters, everything you said. There's a whole, we can find all that stuff on your website, what we need to do. And I guess pray. I don't know, Sam.
We're actually moving our website to Stay Housed LA. You all go on Stay Housed LA, okay? So not the EDN website, but the Stay Housed LA website. But for the tweet, you go on the Facebook group, COVID-19 Renters' Rights, or figure out a way to put it on your website. I put the tweet and our Zoom meetings that happen every week on the chat. But stayhousedla.org is the place for you all, for anybody who needs help, to get help, unless you're already my client, in which case you're already in the system. But new people, stayhousedla.org.
And then, like, a quick summary. Basically, we learned that the separate issue is for previous months. This new AB 3088 says basically tenants have to pay 25% until December of this year.
September, October, November, December, and January, 5 months. You can pay all of those 25% in one payment on or before January 31st in order to have your case not go to eviction
court. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But
and then
still owe all of the money. So.
And then in January, new stuff's going to kick in. We might have to pay 100% by then, or we don't even know, right?
We don't know. This law, the protection goes away at that point. There's a new legislative session in January. Like if I had written this, I would have done something that took us through March to the end of the next legislative session, so that so we're going to be in the same mad rush of trying to figure out, oh my God, now what's going to happen with the REVER? We're going to be in that same crazy rush in the middle of the next legislative session, because that's another thing that doesn't make sense about this law, is ending it in the middle of a legislative session, right?
Yeah.
So, Governor, please.
I just can't with these
health reasons.
So inept.
Yeah. We need to grab a bullhorn. We need to grab a bullhorn and go pay a visit to Mr. Gavin Newsom and mess up that perfect hair he has. You know what I'm saying? Because his aunt, Nancy Pelosi, says we need to pray. And that's exactly the only freaking avenue they're giving us right now. That's the only option. Pray. That's what they've given us. The supermajority of Democrats in California.
And the AB Bill 3088 applies to all of California, correct?
It's all California.
And then what if someone has been paying their rent and then they're working right now as an essential worker? Could they technically, let's say they're not making enough funds, could they also try and they're living in an apartment and also try to only pay 25% for now?
If they've seen a reduction in increase or an increase in expenses that are COVID-19 related, they can take advantage of that and send the letter saying I'm paying partial rent because of COVID-19 related finances. And a new study just came out of UCLA, and one of the things that our legislators keep saying is that people are gaming the system. Truth is, people are taking out payday loans and doing all kinds of craziness to pay their rent that is going to haunt them for the rest of their lives, because you can never get out from under those loans.
Yeah. And
they shouldn't have to do that. People should be protected by their government. The government should be protecting them from eviction. And frankly, we should be #cancel rent. But we are so far away from convincing the powers that be that is the tactic. Right now, I'm on a #no evictions, #Newsomville 2020. That is the housing alternative, is a tent city on the governor's lawn and on the lawn of the Capitol and in front of City Hall, where people who have been displaced can go. That shouldn't be the alternative. The government needs to take leadership. We need leadership.
Yep, 100%, 100%. Elena.
They're saying they're gaming the system when we don't even know how and if we're really going to be able to open up and what the economy is going to be like for people in the hospitality industry.
I think we need a guillotine, Pasta. I think we need a fake guillotine right in front of the governor's lawn, because I mean, I really don't know. I said fake. But I think people are marching for cancel rent. Even now, people are marching for a lot of things. I think these people don't see what's coming if they don't do anything. Newsom doesn't see what's coming. People are going to go after them. And then don't complain about people going to politicians' houses when they're not doing their jobs, ladies and gentlemen. They're not doing their jobs.
I think it's extremely appropriate to go to a politician's home when your own home is in jeopardy.
Yeah. That's Elena Popp. I think we got to end it there. Does anybody else have any questions? What about the rent strike? Are we still part of the rent strike thing?
Yes. Sign up for the rent strike. Should I put that in the chat?
Yes.
Yeah, you might as well. Rent strikes are cool. We need a rent strike, general strike, whatnot. We need to educate people. So if I go out with you guys to a protest, I'm going to make sure that I have all my paperwork to get everybody signed up to do what's necessary, in addition to what we're protesting for, because housing is a human right in my mind. And even if it isn't, like you said, a lot of people can get sick, and it's going to be disgusting seeing people, our citizens, thrown on the streets when, truthfully or not, we were told to halt everything, and they stopped our way of life, and they stopped our income chain, and now they're just giving us very piss poor solutions.
Absolutely. Pasta, we have a super chat.
Well, Jonas Levison asked, what do we do when people, what do people do when faith won't help them out in your great country?
And what?
When faith won't help them out in your great country. It's somebody from another country. So,
what do people do? Well, American people haven't really done enough. I mean, not to blame it on people, because obviously we live in a system that makes it impossible when you're working a 9 to 5. You're working 40 plus hours a week. But I think it's time people do what Elena says: go sit on their lawns, protest at these people's houses, and actually come together for all of these things that are a problem. We're seeing what's going on with police brutality, but police brutality, people are out there because people are also out of work. They're also scared. They're also anxious, and they see all these problems. We need leadership, as Elena says. We need to manifest these things that we want into action, direct actions on the ground. So I hope everybody joins. That's in Los Angeles can join Elena and everybody out there at 7 a.m. tomorrow. Can you repeat the address one more time for the viewers?
So it's First and Hill. The courthouse that's on the corner of First and Hill.
Okay.
There's entrances on First and Hill, First and Grand, and then on First Street between Hill and Grand. And those are the 3 entrances. I think that the press conference at 7 is at 110 North Grand. 110 North Grand.
Okay, got it. Thank you very much, Elena. Thank you very much, guys.
All righty.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining the Convo Couch. Elena Popp, we love you. We'll put all your information down below. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't signed up for our ROKFIN, ROKFIN, thank you to the Patreons. Get out there, get in the street. Let's move that hair of Gavin Newsom and make him feel uncomfortable. For Pasta Jardula,
Fiorella,
Jonny Sue on the 1s and 2s with Elena Popp.
Come out.
Bye, folks.
Bye.
Bye, Elena.